Welcome back to the Domain Academy podcast by GoDaddy. This is episode 2 of our year-long $500 challenge, where we're tackling the question, if you had just $500 to kick off your domain investing journey, how would you spend it to maximize your returns? I'm James Isles, and joining me, as always, is Joe Styler. Alongside us, we have 4 fantastic domain investors also taking on the challenge. First up, we have Michael Seiger, the founder of Domain Sherpa and Domain Academy. Although he's now technically retired, Michael is still very much involved in the domain industry, focusing on some passion projects like developing pyramid.com. Next, we have Andrew Ollerman, editor and publisher of the industry-leading blog Domain Name Wire. Andrew's not just a commentator on the industry, he's a successful investor himself, managing a portfolio of over 2,700 domains. And then we have Deepak Daftari, a domain investor, entrepreneur, and angel investor with more than 2 decades of experience in the domain name industry. And last but certainly not least is Piyush Patel. He's newer to the domaining world and a current Domain Academy participant, but he already has some impressive sales to his name. We've each been handed $500 in GoDaddy credit, and our mission is simple: buy and sell domains to see who can generate the highest return on investment by April 2026. So the stakes: bragging rights, invaluable experience, educational opportunities for new and established investors who are listening, and of course, a trophy that is just a tiny bit bigger than Andrew's prize pickleball trophy.
Let's get started. One thing we discussed before we joined on the podcast is that it's been tough. It's been tough to find names at this level. So I just want to, set everybody straight that domain investing is just like anything else, like we talk about in Domain Academy. If you want to make money, it takes work. It's not a get rich quick. So combing through all these names, we've picked out a few gems, and we're going to go through the group and figure out what they picked and why they like it. I'm going to start with Andrew, since we're a little alphabetical order. Andrew, what did you buy this week, or since we started, and what's 1 or 2 of your favorite names and why?
Yeah, let's see here. So I bought 9 domains across 2 days. And most of them were closeouts. I did a couple hand registrations that I found through AI tools. All the closeouts were between $5 and like whatever the $30 rate. Looking long term, my favorite is commoditylogic.com, because I think this is the type of domain that would sell. Logic domains do well. Commodity Logic, you're talking kind of a bigger end user buyer. Whether in 12 months I could sell that, I'm not sure, just waiting inbound, but that's probably my favorite domain of the ones I've gotten. I should mention that I'm pricing all the names much lower than I normally would too, because of our kind of artificial constraint here, the 12 months, just hoping if someone likes the domain that they go ahead and buy it.
And what did you pay for that?
Commodity Logic, let's see. So it was a $5 closeout. So, and then you had the renewal, it's about $16.
All right. Good.
And how did you find that one, Andrew? As I am trying to get back into hunting and gathering mode, because I never buy at closeouts, except for the upcoming year. I'm trying to figure out which tools I want to use in DN Academy. I talk about expireddomains.net. So I went back, dusted it off, refreshed my filters. Is that what you're using to find the GoDaddy closeouts?
Yeah, expireddomains.net. And, so I do the closeout search. First of all, I'll choose that as the feed. And then, and this is what I typically do to find domains, because I buy a lot of closeouts. And then I think they default sort it by the Go value or the GoDaddy appraisal, which is actually, I know a lot of people are critical of it, but when you're sorting a big list, it's super helpful, right? To go in that order. And then I look at a number of other factors I'm happy to go into, but that's kind of the primary, that's my first sort as I go through.
So looking at your list, it looks like apart from one, they're 2word.com domains. A lot of them are alliteration, say spinsigns.com, cloudchime.com,
Right.
dedicateddev.com. Is that the kind of name you tend to go for generally?
I love alliteration, and that's actually, so that's an option in expired domains. You can check a box, expireddomains.net. You can check a box and it will show you only the ones that have, multiple words starting with the same letter. Two of those you mentioned, dedicateddev.com and CloudChime, I actually found through an AI domain generator. Those particular ones were aidomaingenius.com. They let you choose, like, alliteration is one of the options. And I've had success hand-rigging domains through that I found through AI tools that have sold. I mean, obviously not the same as closeouts, but you're paying, $11, and I've found success through that.
So looking at aidomaingenius.com, it looks like you just enter a prompt in. Say, is it specifically I'm looking for 2-word domains with these keywords, or do you tend to be?
I mean, if you want, you can pull it up and I can kind of show you what I do, or we can save that for the individual episode.
Yeah, true. Let's tease it for that.
Okay. All right.
All right, Deepak, you picked up a name. You want to talk about how what you picked up and why you bought it?
I picked up primax.org. I had it in my watch list when it was in the regular auctions. And looking at the limitations which we have, which is $500 under a year, I wanted to focus first on the .orgs because I sell a lot of those, especially when it's really tough to find good, even 2-word .coms for that price point, because I've been having a lot of names. I can tell you which I was in the auctions and which just went beyond. For example, I was in auction for cryptotrade.net. It went for $235. Then I was in auction for horus.io, HORUS, which is again a very nice name. It went for $105. Then cohiba.net, that was another near about $100. Then AdZone, which was another $50. So that's something which I want to do in phase 2. So I had primax.org. When I typically look at a org domain name, I look at names which are registered in more than 50 registrations with the exact keyword. So I think that had somewhere around 98 registrations, and out of the 98, 71 are in active use. So that's when it was in the watch list, and then it went to closeouts, and when it came to $5, I finally bought it. I did a bit of research. There are a lot of companies. The .net is owned by a Spanish company. The .com is owned by a Spanish company. The .net is on Aptenic for, I think, $1,800. So I think I can easily flip it for anything from $1,000 to $1,500, because there are a lot of end users which have a lot of long tail domains with that exact keyword. Not primarily .com, but the other extensions like in Taiwan and in other countries. And I think it'll be an easy sell probably for anything between 1,000 to 500. So that was my thought process. But now that I have a limitation, so I have been focusing on 3word.com. So I have a watch list of probably the next week. Hopefully they would come down to $11 or $20 or $30. So I'm going to buy a few .coms. So that's what I've been doing. So I haven't registered a lot of names, but I have quite a few in my watch list, and I'm just waiting for them to come slightly down in the price point so that I can acquire more names.
Yeah, I think that it's nice that you shared some of the stuff that you didn't get. I'm sure we all tried to get things at the right price and saw them get purchased.
I'll give you an example, Joe. Cohiba. Now that's one of the most famous cigars.
Yep.
For you to buy a .com would be a very high price point, but if somebody is on a limited budget, wants to sell those kind of cigars, I haven't checked on the trademark part, but I sure if it's not heavily trademarked, then selling a .net for easy price point of anything from $1,000 to $2,000, it's not too difficult a job. So that's been my thought process when I'm looking at names.
Yeah, I think that's definitely helpful. James, we're gonna move on to you. What names did you purchase? And what's your favorite?
Yeah, so I got 2 this week. I'm trying to be pretty slow and consistent. I think that in the long run, consistency is going to be the best thing, where you're looking through on a regular basis just to find maybe 1 or 2 a week that are good enough for purchasing. I will say that last week I said that I was going to stick to a very specific set of keywords. Straight away, that's out the window. So I found 2 names that are not on that keyword list. So the first one that I looked at and liked was tryinside.com. So try is a pretty good prefix on a lot of domains. So NameBio has some sales in the 1 to 4K range from after Nick and GoDaddy in the last year. So things like tryatom.com, tryhex.com, trytransparent.com, they're all between the 1 and 4K range. I also did a search on LinkedIn, a search on Crunchbase, and there are a decent amount of companies called Inside. So it's a good indication for me that this is at least a decent brandable name. It does have a limit on the valuation range, I think, because of the fact it's one of a lot of different potential combinations for a company. But on the valuation worksheet for Domain Academy, it put the valuation at just over $2,500. For this, I'd probably put a bin about $999 because of the constraints of the competition. So that was my first one. AustinInternships.com was my second one. I think that a lot of us are going to be thinking about the geo aspect of this. So where you're putting a city or a state plus a profession. In this case, it wasn't strictly a profession. It's more of a description, but Austin is probably the number 1 tech city in the US right now. And if you search for Austin internships on Google, then you see a lot of programs focused on internships. For Austin, interestingly, I know that there's, you can have intern or internships, but internships seems to be the most popular option for that. And I see this being of value to a lot of companies that, job boards or, recruitment companies in and around Austin.
And how'd you find these 2, James?
So these were through expireddomains.net. Originally, I did a pretty constricted keyword search for the keywords that I mentioned last episode, like group and bet and my. But when I expanded it a little bit more, it took me a lot longer to go through. I will say that it's been a struggle to fit in this search around my day job, and I've got a young family as well. So I've done this quite a few times late at night, just trying to find
Domain
some
investing
deals.
takes time, and I
It
think
does.
a lot of people don't realize that.
Yep.
I mean, for every domain you sell, you looked at thousands of names that you considered buying, and then only a fraction of those that you ended up buying.
Yeah, 100%.
I don't know what you guys are talking about. I love the thrill of the hunt. My daughter loves to go thrifting and see what she can find at thrift stores. I do like to go through these drop lists, and you find that one nugget out of like 3 days of searching.
Yep.
And it's like, oh my God, I can't believe, I think I posted this on X today that I found a phenomenal name in pending delete, but it's at a reasonable price right now. And I think it ends tomorrow or the next day, which I'm sure it will shoot up. But you're always sort of hoping that you might be the only one to spot it. And then you might be the only one to actually be at the auction at the very end. And, 1 out of every 100, maybe you are.
A good tip on that, if people are new, is holidays. One of the names I picked up, the one I paid the most money for, was LWT.io. And I got that on Easter weekend because I think a lot of people were not paying attention. So it went to closeouts. And looking at name bio, I saw that 3-letter IOs wholesale going between like $100 and $200 depending on the letters. So LWT is not great because of the W, but it's not bad. W in the middle seems okay. And I looked it up. There seems like there's a decent amount of people that could use it. There's a decent amount of registrations on any 3-letter, right? So that are taken. So that one, I think I snuck in only because it was Easter and most people were not paying attention to auctions. They were, with their family and everybody else like they should be. But I was on the app, when I had a break, checking stuff out. So there's a lot of competition, and anything you could do to like get an edge helps. I picked up mostly geo names. So I've got, I think, almost all of them. Besides that one are geo, and I'm going to try and sell them. So I've got Mesa Patios. That's a city by me. People are outdoor all year here because it doesn't get cold. And that's a really big. So I use the Domain Academy tool, and I forget how many people it had, but we can do what's the population, and it's got 300,000 or 400,000 people in that town. So that I thought that's pretty good. I picked up a couple agent names, so My Phoenix Agent and the Atlanta Agent I picked up. I'm hoping that I can sell those either to somebody who's a realtor or even insurance agent in those geos. I have an interesting story. I talked to this one lady in Atlanta. She was super nice. Seemed like a good fit for the name. And by the end of the call, she's like, I don't think I want to buy it, but I do want to become a domain investor. How do I learn about this podcast? How can I get involved in buying names? This is really cool.
No, wait. So you're telling people you're in a contest, or what do you? How are you doing this?
When I talked to this lady, I forget how it came up, but she asked me like who I am and like why I'm calling her. So I just told her I'm doing a podcast right now, and this is one of the names I'm trying to sell. And she's like, really? Oh, and it turns out her husband sold his last name years ago, and she's like, I knew domains have value, and I want to like learn more about this. So I thought that was pretty interesting. That was fun. So we'll see if I get any sold. I mostly have geos. I did use AI. I used 3 different models, and none of them really helped me. I used Llama, I used Claude, and I used ChatGPT 4.1. And I told it, here's what I'm doing. Help me find undervalued names that I'll be able to sell. And it didn't. And one of the names that all 3 of them recommended was takebloom.com. And I thought that is a horrible name. And you're not going to be able
So
to
you
sell it.
put names into it and said which of these
So I
would you
gave
go
it the
for?
premise of like, here's what we're doing. And then I gave it like, I don't know, 5,000 names or whatever the limit was that I already pre-sorted out, to try and, go through and figure out, sort by extensions, taken, value, GoDaddy value. I only want a com. So I looked at a bunch of stuff, and then I took that, chunk and threw it in there, and it did not find good names for me. So I'm going to have to try and, play around with it more and see if AI will help. But it's been expireddomains.net, and AI did help me for geos. I put in a prompt and said, give me a list of all 50 states, and I don't want any spaces between like New and York, right? Like, so I can just put in there, and I want it sorted by population. So, highest to least. And then I took that and put that into expired domains and filtered by com. And then I sorted the results back when it came back. I only wanted 2 words, and I got a couple 3 words, and we'll see how they go, but I only got those, $5 closeouts plus renewal. So about $16, I think I paid for each one of those. So we'll see. I'm going to try those geos and see if they work by trying to do some outbound. I'm not very good at it. And if it works, great. And if not, then, I might switch up my strategy, but that's what I'm going to try now. So I mostly picked up geo names, and that's how I found them, using expired domains and putting the keywords in there to search for.
And so you actually picked up the phone and called 1 or more agents to try and sell it.
Yeah, I'm only calling people if I think that I could actually help them. I'm not just randomly like calling any agent. The woman that I called, she has a very similar name, and I thought this would be good to protect her name. I really want to help people when I call them, not just call them to, try and sell them stuff. I notice real estate agents answer their phone because they don't know if you're trying to buy a house or not. So
that's a good point.
But they don't always. Once they find out that you don't want to buy a house, they're not always the nicest.
So are you emailing as well, or you're going straight to phone to try that?
I tried phone first. I'm gonna, email maybe later. I did. You saw I made a quick video.
Yeah.
So I could kind of get the, the value proposition of the names out to people. And then I might do an email with that video embedded in it. I did put it on YouTube Shorts, and that's a test. And I don't want to get too much into strategy. We'll talk about it, but I put all the different hashtags and keywords in there in description, so that hopefully Phoenix realtors will see this pop up in their feed and then see the value proposition on the name. So, that's just some stuff I'm
you're really going the whole hog on this, Joe.
I know.
Videos.
We'll see.
It's almost like it's your job,
Joe, how much time did you spend to pick up these names?
It took me a lot longer. I didn't count, but it took me, like we were talking, it took me a lot longer to find good names than it should. I'll tell you this, the top name that came back on my searches for days on geos, as far as like most registrations taken and like that, I don't know what people are thinking with this. KentuckyFriedCat.com, right? And I was like, this
Well, it
is
makes
the
us
most-
registered.
Yeah, that it's even registered and that it's registered in multiple extensions, right? That it would pop up on the top of my list. I was like, this is insane.
Is it a meme or something? Did you look into?
I didn't look. I was like, this is ridiculous. No,
Kentucky Fried Cats?
yeah, Kentucky Fried Cat. And I was like, I don't know. So you can use the tools and you could sort and you could do things and it's going to come back. And I think that's one of the points I was trying to make. Like AI was telling me to buy these crazy names, and expireddomains.net, that would pop up at the top of my geo search, and like that's a horrible name, right? So I bring it up to say, like, when you're using the tools, you still have to go and learn, because you don't want to just buy names that you think might check all the boxes, but they turn out to be these really ridiculously bad names that you would never sell.
There are a bunch of things showing up for a Kentucky Fried Cat. I don't want to go down that rabbit hole,
I
but
did not look. I was like, this is
if you
Watch
go
your browser
Google it,
history.
if you go Google it, you can you'll see perhaps why. So
yeah. I don't wanna
quick
know.
question for you. The .io you got, LWT, how much did you pay for that?
So it looks like I paid about $40 for it. So here's another tip for everybody, and we do share this in our auctions masterclass. And one of the things that I know that we share, I can't give you specific numbers, but I know when the name comes out at $50, there's a decent amount of purchase activity, right? And then that purchase activity dies down until it gets to the $11 day, and then it picks back up. And then the $5 day is like the crazy day where it's through the roof demand. But there's really high demand at the $50 price point, and there's really high demand at the $11 price point. So I must have picked this up at 30 plus a renewal, because I didn't want it to get to that $11 price point, because I knew it's going to disappear. So I figured if it made it past 50, I'm going to wait till 30, but it's not going to make it past 11. And I picked that one up at $30.
And then of course the registration fees on IOs are pretty
they're
steep
high.
too. So you got to keep that in mind. So
Well, I'm hoping I could wholesale this to somebody still. Like I said, wholesale, it's going for, anywhere from 100 to $200. So I should be able to at least make a couple dollars, if an investor's interested. But I'm sure that if investors are interested, we'd wholesale a couple of these names to just get the ball rolling.
yeah.
So I think that, I have that out right now. I've got it priced around $3,000, and I'm waiting. But I think if I need cash, I can probably just reach out and get that name sold.
I just checked. You did a lot of work on the real estate names, but if you check on LinkedIn with LWT,
Mhm.
there's a company on lwtsquad.com which has almost like 35,000 followers, and they're pretty big there in San Francisco.
Yeah,
I think
maybe reach out to
outbound on
them.
that. There are tons of companies with that keyword LWT.
Yeah, that's one of the reasons why I thought it was good to pick up. And there was a decent amount that I saw that were in the tech space, and IO is a good match. So you want to match the beginning, the SLD and the TLD. So what's the left of the dot and the right of the dot has to make sense. So when I saw that there was a decent amount of tech companies that use that, I thought, okay, I'm gonna pick this up.
That would be hard work to make £100, just $100. Yeah.
But if you're starting with $500,
Correct.
and I mean, so that assumes that you don't have a lot of money,
Mhm.
just in general,
Sure,
right? And you're
right.
trying to start from there. I think a lot of people start by just flipping things for just a
right.
little bit more, and then they
Correct.
take that and they parlay that into more.
Yeah,
So,
and then you can build.
Yeah,
up.
you got to get the flywheel going.
Yep.
It sort of
That's right.
hones your skills, gives you some confidence to then go do it again, or maybe slightly bigger. Yeah.
That's how I got into it. Like I bought it for $50 and I put it there, and somebody paid 10,000.
It's a bit more extreme than
I'm talking about
I
50,
know.
50 to 100.
That's how I did it, 50 to 10,000.
Yeah. I mean, it's easy, everyone.
way.
Just
Yeah,
just
exactly.
start.
But one name I bought that I think it was a mistake for this contest, but not that I would register it on my own. But I hand registered Deep Link SEO, and that's kind of like it's a moonshot name that I think is going to take a while to pick up, if it ever picks up. So Deep Link is like,
Deeplinks.com went for very top dollars.
yeah, deep link is an SEO term. It talks about like when you're linking to a specific page in your website, not like the main page, but like drill down into one, page that might be buried. But what I'm hoping, moonshot wise, is with this name, there's a lot of AI and AI search, and everything's in flux now. Apple just said that, Google search is going to go go down by a lot because, AI search is really taking off, right? So we're in a lot of flux. And deep is a research model in AI. It's a keyword, and we'll get into it, but everybody has websites and businesses that want to show up in AI. So I'm hoping that, maybe that'll catch on. Maybe deep link SEO would be something that's like a SEO for AI search. And in that case, that's a 5-figure name, right? Like when that starts to take off instead of a couple $100. But I think it's going to take a while for that. And in the short term, could I get more than the hand reg for it to an SEO company because it already exists? Probably, right? Like I might be able to sell it for it, but it's not a good one because that's going to take a while to hold, like I talked about. So I don't think that was a good, hand reg spend. And with $500, even if it's only $12, it still, still hurts. So
You just give an idea. Someone can register deep search SEO, search SEO and deep. That's just that'll be a good combination of the word.
Yeah, it would. All right, so let's move on to Mike. Mike, what did you register?
Oh, it was tough, as we mentioned earlier. I dusted off my expireddomains.net, dusted off my notes from prior, went to Domain Name Wire, searched for Afternick's most used words, got Cito's most used words, put them all into expired domains. So now I'm searching for, you can put in multiple words in, starts with, ends with, .com, GoDaddy closeouts. So I've got a couple of filters going on there. And day after day, I was like looking through these and I'm like, wow, I'm really bad at picking closeouts, especially when I saw you guys like registering a whole bunch. I'm like, I'm really bad at seeing, these good domains. And day after day, I couldn't find anything. And I thought I was going to be the only one that didn't have any domains registered today. And then I was looking through it and I got a call from industry veteran Mark Levine, who was on GoDaddy's podcast last year, has been on Andrew Alleman's Domain Name Wire podcast multiple times. Great guy. And so we're chatting, catching up on life, and I'm sort of looking through my list. And I'm like, hey, what do you think about this? And he's like, no, that's a terrible name. And I'm like, what do you think about this one? He's like, oh, maybe. What's it at? And close out. So just being able to like chat it up with Mark while I'm sort of looking, I've got my, starred domains and expired domains, so I could just bring them up and ask him, was very helpful. And so one of the domains that I saw was freshparenting.com, which fresh is one of the words that I look for at the start of a word, at the start of a 2-word.com. Parenting, I thought, I have 3 kids. When we were having our first kid, I actually went to a class with my wife to learn how to be a better parent. It's, if you go and you look in bookstores, if you have any bookstores around you, parenting is like a big section. It's a topic that is evergreen. People are always having kids. People always need a parent. And so Mark's like, well, go to NameBio and tell me how many parenting domains sold. I'm like, oh, that's a good idea. And so I went to NameBio, typed in parenting at the end, and there was 68 domains total that have ever sold. Things like Smarter Parenting, sold on Afternick, Whole Parenting, Puppy Parenting, Power Parenting, Focus on Parenting. And then I did the same search for Fresh, and just in the past 3 years, there's a ton of Fresh something domain names. So that gave me the confidence to say Fresh Parenting, I think, could be a nice brand for a domain name. It was at $5, so I paid $5 closeout plus the renewal of the .com. And I owe Mark Levine a commission if it ever sells now. So luckily that doesn't come out of my proceeds for the competition here. So I am going to, once that actually hits my account, I'm going to price it probably in the $2,000 to $5,000. I am going to price them, offer a lease to own, make sure my lease to own is as small as it can be. So my 2025 personal strategy is to put my domains out at 60 months, like 5 years, because I want to just create monthly revenue, recurring revenue for my business. And if I get the domain name back, I'm totally happy with it. But for this competition, I want to get the cash as soon as possible. So if I can do a 6 or 9 month lease to own on a $5,000 domain name. I'm totally happy with getting that cash in. So that's the one domain name that I was able to find. I've got a couple that I'm watching to see if they can get down to the $5 level. And I'm still going to be searching for geos plus service.com. So like a city more than a state or a country. So the city plus the service, typically in that order. And so if anybody's listening to this podcast and you have a great wholesale, you want to liquidate some domains, you haven't done any outbound on them, hit me up at Michael Seiger on X, and let's talk about selling them to me so that I can do some outbound and beat these guys in this competition.
Whoever's listening, I'll pay $1 more.
No, you will not.
Wow.
Plus, he's always asleep in UK. Come on, I'm on US time.
I guess you can't actually buy them wholesale though from other people, right? For this contest.
Oh,
It
yeah, that's
is
a good
through
point.
if they set the price on Afternic.
Oh, that's a good point.
So
That's
it
good.
would be like, what's the minimum, Joe?
It's
Is it like
20?
$100?
Yeah, $100.
So it's got to
Oh,
be a
is it?
good
Okay,
deal
I
for
thought it was
100
low.
wholesale.
Yeah.
Yeah,
But I
that's
still
true.
got cash, not like some of you guys.
So I noticed something here. Both James and Mike started talking about using the popular keywords here in Afternic and other places, which there's a reason, right? They sell, but everyone's looking at those keywords too, right? And so
Right.
that's kind of the challenge, especially if you're a new investor and you're starting with a limited budget and how you approach it. Doing the most popular keywords might not be the appropriate path to take in that case.
Yeah, if they're
Yeah.
good, they're probably not going to get past $50.
Yeah.
So that's the one time. If it does end in tech, or start with and I happen to time it perfectly at expired domains, and it's a really good short 2word.com, I might pay $50 for it, plus the $10 reg fee. So it's a $60 purchase. It's got to be good though, for me to spend that much.
One thing that I took away, Mike, was you're using your network, which I think is a really undervalued thing in domain investing. So like building up your network, building your connections with other domain investors, bouncing ideas off. And I think, am I right in saying that Mark is probably one of the best with like closeout domains? He goes hunting pretty regularly and finds these really good cheap deals in GoDaddy closeout. So
Yeah.
he's a very good resource to have there.
Mark is a great investor. He not only searches the closeouts, but he's also buying single hot words in alternate extensions like .gg or .vc. He's a force to be reckoned with. So making those connections, I think, is really helpful so that when you're just catching up or when Andrew and I are just playing pickleball, let me run some by you. And it's definitely helpful.
Yeah, 100%.
All right. Last but not least, Piyush, what did you pick up, and what's one of your favorite ones out of the list?
I think I've got my favorite is searchsa.com. Because SA present very San Antonio, South Africa, South Australia, and Saudi Arabia. So if I put in that in the Google sa.gov, that's for San Antonio, sa.com.au for South Australia, similar with .co.nz for South Africa. So there's a huge usage. And when I was looking for search with letter.com, there was nothing available. I think they were trying to sell it for 20,000, 30,000, if I remember it right, before it got expired. I think $40 is just cheap deal. So I put it back and it's pretty about $14,000.
So that's
Okay.
your buy now price?
So, and I think I think it is still a cheap deal. I went out at $2,500 first, but I thought, you know what? That's too cheap to sell it to real estate agent. For such a beautiful name. It's just a great brand. No one can forget that because sa.gov, they have done enough for the Google ranking. So that's going to reduce a lot of effort for the realtors in SA.
Mhm.
And
Do
if
you
that
think
doesn't work
do you
out,
think people search by SA instead of the full name there? Like if I'm looking for a home in San Antonio, would I do SA Homes or would I be like,
but Google recognize SA. So if you put SA or San Antonio, it's just going to give you all SA, SA.gov, and whoever is paying the top dollar for SA is just going to pop up there. Even if you put San Antonio, the Google is just going to put SA there because that's what they have been paid through. And
for
and
AdWords?
yeah, and
Okay.
and if you think about it, if someone is going to drive past, they are going to remember search SA a lot more easier. It's way more memorable than anything else. And if SA.gov is the common use case in San Antonio, then people who live in there, they don't have to remember, they don't have to memorize it. It is just going to be a very common brand for that. So that's my thinking process behind buying searchsa.com. And that's just for the San Antonio.
Right. Yeah, I'll be curious because I know like real estate agents, Joe, you were talking to some. I'll be curious what they say because you're right that you do see them choose these. There's so many different words they can use, right? There's realty, there's homes, there's home, there, search in some ways, that sort of thing. So and you do see them pick these long bad names. I'm curious if they come around or not, right? Like there's some that I'm sure they immediately see the value of, like SanAntonioHomes.com or something like that. But can you get them to look beyond those obvious ones?
Correct. It's smart, it's unique. A lot of work has been done by government on putting lots of money on SA. So if someone wants to pick that up, I think that would be a great brand. They don't have to explain it to anybody. They can hand over the card. They're not going to forget it. That's the beauty of the great brand.
I want to interject one more thing. I think we need to do a public service announcement about real estate domains, and that is that realtor is a trademark.
Right. Yeah.
And
Yes.
I think we've all, myself included, early days, I'm like, this is a great domain. It's a cityrealtor.com. You don't want to register any that have that
Yeah.
REALTOR in them.
Another one that I bought is like drugprofile.com. I come from pharmaceutical industry and I know the importance of drug and its profiling and whatnot. Again, that's a huge, the big name. If I have to sit and wait for it, I would probably not sell it below 5 figures because drugreviews.com sold for 25 grand. And there are other names that started with drugs sold for like 15, 20, 25. So it's a very high value name. But finding the end user for that is a bit tricky. Some is not just going to, because the use cases are very limited. It's only targeting pharmaceutical companies. And if they have some idea behind it, they can do a lot more with drugprofile.com because it's drug profiling. And it's a very commonly used word in the pharma industry. So that's my another big pick. I probably bought 11 names. Like I said before, I just went in crazy. I spent all the $500 and I thought, you know what? But anyway, there are good names. I just can't stop myself buying either way. So that's why I bought drugprofile.com. There is another one, lawhelpdesk.com. I like that. There are other names that ends with helpdesk.com has been sold before. And the law is like, any law firm or someone is advising people. I think that would be perfect. I reached out to a couple of people. They said, we are okay right now. We don't want it. Again, on LinkedIn, because I find that perfect and people do come back to you. And it's another way of sort of teaching the audience that, how do you probably pitch to the right people? And so I think LinkedIn is a lot of undervalued right now. If you're a domainer, I think reaching out to the right people on LinkedIn does help.
One of the things that I noticed on the spreadsheet was that we all had different prices for the domain names that we were buying, that, taxes were different clearly in different states and different countries. And one of the things we stumbled upon was a practice at GoDaddy, which I have never heard of before. James had never heard of before. Joe, do you want to share that one? Because I think it might be a great tip for people.
Yeah, so on the closeout names, any of the closeouts that we have, if you buy 5 names or more. It has to be groups of 5. So if you buy 5, 10, 15, and you have to check them out at the same time. So you can't buy 5 in a day, one at a time. It has to be 5 in a group that you check out. You get $1 discount off of each name. So it'll take $5 off your group of 5. So as long as you check them out at the same time, you'll get a discount.
Can you clarify? So if I buy 7, will I still get $1 off each? Is it 5 or more?
You only get $5 off. So it's every group of 5, you get $5 off.
Interesting.
So
Okay.
a $5 closeout then becomes $4 plus reg fee.
$4.
Right.
Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah, we figured that out when people were looking at their prices and like, how did I pay $29 for this?
Yeah. I could barely find one, so I'm not going to
Yeah.
find 5, but it's a good tip to know.
I don't know if I can check out 5 at the same time.
I was talking to on a SpaceX Spaces a couple nights ago, and Arif, who we all know, has gone on a tear and bought like 180 domain names and closeouts over the past 2 weeks. I'm like,
Wow.
how do you find 180 domain names in the past 2 weeks? He did it, or maybe it was 165. Anyways, yeah, he's taking advantage of that extra $1 off each domain.
The names are there. Like, every day at GoDaddy, there's 35,000 names enter the auctions.
All right. Well, everyone's off to a pretty good start here, I think. Lots of different strategies.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's about time to wrap it up. But before I do, I want to tell you about what's next. So in a couple of weeks' time, we'll start recording and releasing some more one-on-one podcasts where we'll dive deeper into the different strategies and tools that we're buying with, and how we're selling these different names. But in the meantime, you can follow us on X at DN Academy, and you can find the series on YouTube or wherever you get your podcasts. So see you next time.
Thanks, everybody.
Sure,
Thanks,
thank you.
thanks
Everyone.
everyone.
Everybody.
Take care. Bye-bye.